All right, good morning, guys. This is our last video for Their Eyes Were Watching God. I'm going to read chapter 20, which is really short, and then I'll discuss the book in its totality. Right? All right. Because they really loved Janie just a little less than they had loved TK, and because they wanted to think well of themselves, they wanted their hostile attitude forgotten. So they blamed it all on Mrs. Turner's brother and ran him off the muck again. They'd show him about coming back there posing like he was good looking and putting himself where men's wives could look at him. Even if they didn't look, it wasn't his fault. He had put himself in the way. Nah, I ain't mad with Janie, Sop went around explaining. TK had done gone crazy. You can't blame her for protecting herself. She was crazy about him. Look at the way she put him away. I ain't got anything in my heart against her, and I never would have thought a thing. But the first day that lap-legged Negro come back here making out he was looking for work, he come asking me about how was Mr. and Mrs. Woods making out. That goes to show you he was up to something. So when Stu Beef and Bootney and some of the rest of them got behind him, he come running to me to save him. I told him, don't come to me with your hair blown back, because I'm going to singe it. And I sure did. The bitches, baby. That was enough. They eased their feelings by beating him and running him off. Anyway, their anger against Janie had lasted 2 whole days, and that was too long to keep remembering anything. Too much of a strain. They had begged Janie to stay on with them, and she had stayed a few weeks to keep them from feeling bad. But the muck meant TK, and TK wasn't there. So it was just a great expanse of black mud. She had given away everything in their little house except a package of garden seed that TK had bought to plant. The planting never got done because he had been waiting for the right time of the moon when his sickness overtook him. The seeds reminded Janie of TK more than anything else because he was always planting things. She had noticed them on the kitchen shelf when she had come home from the funeral and had put them in her breast pocket. Now that she was home, she meant to plant them for remembrance. Janie stirred her strong feet in the pan of water. The tiredness was gone, so she dried them off on the towel. Now, that's how everything was, Phoebe, just like I told you. So I'm back home again, and I'm satisfied to be here. I done been to the horizon and back now. I can sit here in my house and live by comparisons. This house ain't so absent of things like it used to be before TK come along. It's full of thoughts, especially that bedroom. I know all them sitters and talkers going to worry their guts into fiddle strings till they find out what we've been talking about. That's all right, Phoebe. Tell them. They going to make my ration because my love didn't work like they love, if they ever had any. Then you must tell them that love ain't something like a grindstone. That's the same thing everywhere and do the same thing to everything it touch. Love is like the sea. It's a moving thing, but still in all, it takes its shape from the shore it meets, and it's different with every shore. Lord, Phoebe breathed out heavily. I done grow 10 feet higher from just listening to you, Janie. I ain't satisfied with myself no more. I means to make Sam take me fishing with him after this. Nobody better criticize you in my hearing. Now, Phoebe, don't feel too mean with the rest of them because they's parched up from not knowing things. Them meat skins is got to rattle to make out they's alive. Let them consolate themselves with talk. Of course, talking don't amount to a hill of beans when you can't do nothing else. And listening to that kind of talk is just like opening your mouth and letting the moon shine down your throat. It's a known fact, Phoebe. You got to go there to know there. Your papa and your mama and nobody else can tell you and show you. 2 things everybody got to do for themselves. They got to go to God and they got to find out about living for themselves. There was a finished silence after that. so that for the first time they could hear the wind picking at the pine trees. It made Phoebe think of Sam waiting for her and getting fretful. It made Janie think about the room upstairs, her bedroom. Phoebe hugged Janie real hard and cut the darkness in flight. Soon, everything around downstairs was shut and fastened. Janie mounted the stairs with her lamp. The light in her hand was like a spark of sun stuff, washing her face in fire. Her shadow fell behind Black and headlong down the stairs. Now, in her room, the place tasted fresh again. The wind through the open windows had broomed out all the fetid feeling of absence and nothingness. She closed in and sat down, combing road dust out of her hair, thinking. The day of the gun, and the bloody body, and the courthouse came and commenced to sing a sobbing sight out of every corner in her room. Out of each and every chair and thing, commenced to sing, commenced to sob and sigh, singing and sobbing. Then TK came prancing around her where she was, and the song of the sigh flew out of the window and lit into the top of the pine trees. TK with the sun for a shawl. Of course he wasn't dead. He could never be dead until she herself had finished feeling and thinking. The kiss of his memory made pictures of love and light against the wall. Here was peace. She pulled in her horizon like a great fishnet, pulled it from around the waist of the world and draped it over her shoulder. So much of life in its meshes. She called in her soul to come and see. Right? All right, so that's the end of our novel. The ending, I think chapter 20 is one of the most beautiful chapters I've read, especially the last paragraph where Janie is reconciled to the things that have happened to her in her life. I really like the ending. I really like the last 3 lines with the metaphor of her pulling in the horizon around her waist. And you'll notice that in the beginning of the book, she always talked about far off horizons. And she always talked about the great pear tree and what love was like. And so now that she finally knows like what love is like, then she can be content with her life. Even though she doesn't have that love anymore, she's experienced love. I think that some people misconstrued that whole idea of love. While she was intent on finding love with someone, the greatest love that she actually finds is the love of herself, right? And that's really what she was searching for when she was leaning across that gate and saw little Johnny, whatever his last name was. I think it was Taylor or Tyler. He represented a picture of love, but the ultimate love that she actually finds is the love of herself, which is why she would shoot TK instead of letting him kill her, because she loved herself more than she loved him, right? Yes, she loved him, and he represented that love from the opposite sex that she was looking for. But he did not represent like everything in her life. She becomes everything. And so at the end, when she talks about living and doing and seeing, that is the thing that she finds the most in this book. She finds herself, which is why we refer to this book as a Bildungsroman. A Bildungsroman is a novel that follows a young person from their youth into their adulthood and looks at their life and the things that happened to them in that life. And so this book certainly falls into that category. It is a Bildungsroman. The overall theme again though is self-identity, self-discovery. And there's a strong theme of nature that runs through this book. Not so much religion, because if you'll notice, while she does refer to the watcher or the maker or God, she refers to him as this thing that is outside of the lives of men, not something that is directly controlling their actions. The only reference to God is going to be in reference to nature. So she looks at that as God and nature all being like one and sort of intertwined, and not as nature is one thing and then God as someone who's controlling the lives of men. She looks at God and nature, and they're sort of intertwined together. If you guys have any questions about this chapter, send me an email, let me know. I'm about to post it onto Google Classroom right now along with the assignment, and you guys can finish that. And then we will come back on probably Friday during our Zoom, and we'll talk about what we're going to do next. Are we going to read another novel? Will we do poetry? What are we going to do until school is out? Because we still have 3 more weeks. I think we're going to go through the end of May. So we'll have to do something from now until the end of May. If you have a novel in mind, come with that novel on Friday and give your suggestion, and then we'll take a vote of all the people who are online that day and see what we're going to read next. Okay? See you guys later. Be safe.